Okay, hi, this is Abhishek Shetty again, and this is another video. This is my first cross post. It's the first time I've read a book and watched a series about that book in the same period. So, the book that I'm talking about is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman, and there's also um, a Netflix series based on it called Anxious People. And it's based on the novel of the same name. So this book took me a little longer to read, and the series had 6 episodes. So I first read the book and then saw the series. Now, there's a lot of things I want to share about this book, so maybe this one's going to take me some time. I'm just going to bring up my notes so that I can share this with you. See. Okay, so to get started, this book is it's a book that has a bank robbery, a hostage drama. It has an older couple navigating their relationship, a younger couple navigating their relationship. It has various types of professions and the anxieties of each of these professions represented through the lives of the characters. It It has a lot about parenting. It has a lot about um, Swedish culture because the characters are based in Sweden and the author is also Swedish. So there's a lot to learn about life in general from this book. And I think one of the reasons I read books is it gives you this amazing ability to learn from other people's experiences, even though they're fictional. For instance, while I was looking at the older couple navigate their challenges in their relationship, I realized that those are challenges I may face in my own relationships, or about how someone that's retired maybe speaks to someone that's just starting their career. So I think the first thing I liked from this book was that um, it had 8 to 9 characters, and I didn't feel like any character was downplayed. Each character had depth and a backstory that you wanted to be invested in. And I think that is a unique quality of Frederick Bachman to create such powerful characters that you can really relate to. Um, I think the second thing I got from this book, and again, I'm taking up my notes, I have a lot of notes from this book and some passages that I've shared. I think how each person reacts differently to a life experience based on their age and background and past experience. Um, so I thought this was really interesting. For instance, if you've seen a lot in life, you've lost a lot of people, you have worked in a particular profession for a long time. I think your perspective is very different than someone who's just graduated university. And when both of you talk about the same things, your perspective on um, I don't know, marriage or love or death or money. It's so different, and it's so interesting to see how the old and the young speak about their ideas. And it's not just the old and the young, but also people navigating that middle part of life, in their mid 40s or mid 30s. And I thought that was really interesting how each character responded to it differently. Um, I think the two characters whose story I really like, just to go back to this point, I think there's a passage in chapter number 8 that says, um, at the end of your career, you're trying to find a point to it, and at the start of it, you're looking for a purpose. So that was very interesting to show that distinction between the old and the new. Um, I found the relationship between two characters, Roger and Annalena. They're both retired now, and they decide to take up this project of renovating houses that Annalena doesn't really enjoy. So, but Roger really enjoys it. And in this particular relationship, Annalena had a very successful career, and Roger was the one that had to stay at home and take care of the kids. And it was interesting to see how male resentment built up uh, for a task that's normally considered um, um, for a task that normally women have to sacrifice their career. So this person had to do it, and it seemed like he felt like he was entitled to a career when it can be pretty common for one parent to take some time off to take care of the kids. And if it was the father, it shouldn't be any different than if it was the mother. But also in their old age, how in their retirement phase, how they spoke to each other, and they were still making accommodations. There was not like everything was perfect even after being married for so long. And as someone that is with someone for a while now, I realized that there's not going to be a time when everything's perfect in any relationship. So you always have to work at it, and find good points, and there will be phases that will be uncomfortable. So it's a work in progress. And Roger and Annalena taught me that you always have to acknowledge how the other person's feeling, and you build a life together, you enjoy a lot of experiences together, but you also have to be your own person. You enjoy doing some things on your own and some things with the other person, but it's very important to find things you can do together. Another thing was this relationship between two police officers in the book, Jack and Jim. One was a police cop, and the other one decided to become a police cop because of what he saw with his dad. And I thought their relationship was really interesting because the older police cop was sort of a lot more empathetic to the needs of the people he was interrogating for an incident in the book. But the younger cop really wanted to get to the outcome, like, what is the purpose? You are the culprit, and was more judgmental, while the older person was trying to understand the backstory of each person they were interrogating. So that relationship and how it changed, and how the father was trying to build a bond with his younger son, and also how that relationship of working with your dad in the same job. I thought that's fascinating. Not a lot of people get to do that. Um, and in a particular profession in as well. So that was really interesting to see. Um, Another thing I thought uh, was that I thought I learned something from was this relationship between Ro and Jules. That was the couple that was expecting a baby. Now, um, as women, I one person was pregnant, and the other person wanted to support that person. But um, I think in their relationship, I understood how parenting can change your relationship as romantic partners. Suddenly, both of them had more expectations of each other. They needed to understand that one of them was really scared to be a parent, and the other one really wanted to do it. Um, and it's not enough to be good romantic partners to be good parents. That's just another skill. And I think in a conversation between another person, Roger and Ro, Roger, who was already a parent and his kids moved out, told Ro that to be a good parent, you just need to know that you need to love the child. And this got me thinking about something that Alain de Botton said, who's one of my favorite philosophers. He said that there's this concept of not being the perfect parent. Like, I don't think kids need perfect parents, because he suggested that parents sort of prepare kids for the anxieties of adulthood, so it's not a very positive sort of experience every time, and eventually you have to disappoint your kids, um, and they have to make some sacrifices here and there. So I just thought that you don't have to be a perfect parent. You try your best, you share what you can, and then the kid makes their choices, and they have to back those choices up, and you're not going to be responsible for them for the rest of your lives, but you do love them unconditionally, and that is what makes you a good parent. So that was another thing I got. um, I really thought Zara, the bank manager, was a character that optimistically evolved. I think this was one of my criticisms in the novel, is that eventually all the characters sort of had a positive end, and I feel like Bachman tried to create a very positive outlook with the book, and a nice view of the world, But I think Zara was very affected by, so she was a bank manager and she didn't approve a loan for one person, and something happened to that person, and she held on to that for a very long time, and it caused her a lot of anxiety and depression. And eventually she realized that that person's decisions was not related to her not accepting his loan, so because there was a letter that that person sent Zara, and she didn't have to be so worried about it. And I realized that so many of our decisions in life are based on past experiences. When we fall in love with someone, we often reference that back to a previous relationship. When we try something new, we think about other things we've tried and, maybe succeeded or failed at. And I think sometimes it's important to give ourselves the chance to start from an empty sort of slate, without any preconceived notions. And it's hard to do, and it, requires a lot of self-reflection and therapy and conversations with friends and family. But eventually, it's a conversation with yourself about what is important to you. And I think the book Anxious People sort of tells you that, we're all anxious for different reasons, but there is always a story behind why and where that anxiety first sort of had its roots, and I think you as an individual need to find those roots, and it involves going back into your life and digging out these stories and incidents and mental concepts about your views on the world about different things. For instance, you listening to this video and me will have two very different opinions on what it means to be in a relationship. And I think it's that clash and that engagement between these ideas that is important to um, sustain sort of human experience. Um, the final thing is, I think one thing that Bachman does really well is he has some really great advice that he shares in the middle of his books, and I developed a term for this called Bachmanization. So let's see if I can find one. Here, this was really good, and this was a passage from the book. Um, do you know what the worst thing about being a parent is? That you're always judged by your worst moments. You can do a million things right, but if you do one single thing wrong, you're forever that parent who was checking his phone in the park when your child was hit in the head by a swing. We don't take our eyes off them for days at a time, but then you read just one text message, and it's as if all your best moments never happened. No one goes to a psychologist to talk about, and then it goes on. But that's such a beautiful thought, and that's one of those Bachmanization incidents where he shares like an interesting insight on life um, through the character's experiences. We often judge ourselves based on our worst moments, not based on all the hundred other good things we've done, and it teaches you that it's very important to have gratitude for your own journey. We've all gone through a lot of struggles to get to the point in our lives that we're at right now. And you need to acknowledge your life as a whole and not just look at a bad day that you had last week to judge the merit of your life. So Pac-Man made me realize that it's important to be kind to yourself, and be kind to others, which is the biggest lesson I learned from this book. Um, but yeah, this book got me curious, and even the show, it's a 6 episode series. I think the characterization is done really well. When I saw the show, the characters did remind me of my mental picture of what the characters were like in the book. So do watch the show after you read the book. And it's by a Swedish cast and a Swedish team. So I think their perspectives are really, really interesting. And then if there are other things you want to watch by Bachman, there's a collection of letters he wrote to his son. There's a book called A Man Called Ove, on which there is a movie called A Man Called Otto that stars Tom Hanks. So, a bunch of different things you can watch. But thank you for listening to this video about my experience reading this wonderful book. It was one of my favorite books of the year, and my favorite series of the year. And until next time, keep listening. Do subscribe, like, share if you've enjoyed watching this video. It took me 4 hours to watch the show, and maybe 10 or 12 hours to read the book. And I'm making a video of about 20 minutes, so this video is over 18 hours of work. So I really hope you enjoy it. And thanks again for listening to this video.